Okay, I'll try and talk really loud because it's very windy here today in Stanford, Queensland. Stormy weather at the moment and lots of rain, which is fantastic, except for the fact that most of my paddocks are flooded now. So we've had a full circle of natural disasters, so to speak, here in the last 2 years. We've had a drought that went for about 4 years, and then we had the bushfires come through here and burnt my boundary fence, so we've replaced all that, and now the floods have taken some of that boundary fence out again. So yep, doing really well here as far as weather goes. But anyway, apart from the fact that we are going to need to fix the fences when the floods recede, we are still gardening, and the garden is going great guns. We've actually got some apples on the tree, which I'll show you in this video as well. But I thought what I would do, because it's sort of the start of our season, although there are some stuff growing now, I thought I might show you the seedlings here that that are just outside the greenhouse. The greenhouse is a mess at the moment, so I'm not going to take you in there and put you through that torture. But the greenhouse I use, it's a 12 by 3 or 3 by 12, whichever you like, however you like to say that. I use at the moment to start seeds because it's nice and warm in there and there's lots of light, and I seem to have pretty good success with that. So the empty cells here are where I've actually planted out some of these seedlings into the garden. But anyway, so here we have some pumpkins, some zinnias. The ones in the white pots are actually lemon trees that a friend of mine had that seemed to be quite frost resistant, and so I figured that the trees that we get from those seeds should be quite frost resistant as well, because the mother tree is. I don't know what type they are, but anyway, that's fine. They're normally true to type when you grow citrus from seed, so that's a bonus. Then we've got some trees over here. We've got we've got a mandarin tree that I also started from seed just as an experiment. That's also a bit frost resistant. Most mandarins are, because we get quite severe frosts here. We get to -6 degrees. I'm not sure what that is in Celsius, but I'm sure someone can tell you in the comments, or I'll look it up and I'll tell you in the description. We've got junipers, 3 junipers. I've got a bisexual and a male and a female, because you need both male and female to produce the cones, which are the edible berries that actually they use to make gin, but we use it as a health tonic. I'm studying naturopathy, so, and I am a herbalist, and we use that as a kidney healer. So you can eat the berries fresh, obviously, or you can process them and make gin, or you can make a tincture out of those. You can do lots of things with juniper berries. I haven't actually tried them fresh because I don't know anyone that has any, so I don't know what they taste like, but I'm sure most of you know what gin tastes like. So that's the trees there, and then on the end here, amongst all the weeds, it's terrible at the moment with all the rain, is another Gumby tree. I've got a couple already planted out, and that one's got to be planted out very soon because it's getting a bit pot bound. But yeah, that's an Australian native, and the native Australians used it as a medicinal for heart pain and a few other things, for men mostly. Women don't tend to use this plant too much, just as a folklore thing, if you like. So there's all the seedlings. They're all looking pretty good at the moment. We've got some rock melon and some watermelon and some calendula, some, what else have we got? Some chickpeas. They say to start them in ground, but I'm not very good at following seed packet rules, so we're not starting them in ground, because I find that starting them this way is a lot more success, as long as you keep them fairly dry. You don't want them wet, so that the seeds, or they're actually chickpeas themselves, the seed that it grows from, and you don't want it to get too wet. It will rot, like any kind of bean seed. Doesn't like too much water, so you want to keep it sort of damp but not soaking wet. Whereas you have things like pumpkins and watermelons and chamomile, most of your herbs, they like it quite wet. So it's just about feeling your way through a bit and getting some trial and error happening and seeing what likes, normally it will tell you on the seed packet, but what likes to be a little bit wetter and what likes the dry a bit more. And usually your plants that don't like too much water are really good drought resistant plants, like the chickpeas are. And normally we have a problem with drought, except at the moment we're all flooded. But I'm really happy about that because, like I said, we've got a huge year coming, I think, for production. So that's really good for us. My sacrifice garden, so to speak. It wasn't actually, it did have all of my winter crops in it. The carrots you can see down there, they're well and truly, most of them ready to be pulled, and we have been eating them sort of throughout autumn. It's still autumn now. What am I talking about? Spring. It's still spring now, but yeah, we're still eating them. And the beetroots, there's actually a lot of snails in this bed, which I've never seen before in Stanthorpe here, where I am. There's some radish gone to seed too. You can eat the seed pods and the flowers of the radish. You can eat the whole plant. But the seed pods are really good as like a snow pea supplement. When the snow peas aren't in season, they are at the moment, but when it gets a bit hot, they don't tend to like it too much. So I've just kind of left everything here, and the beetroots to go to seed that we didn't eat, so that we can have seeds for next year or next winter. And that's about it. This is kind of our snail sacrifice bed, and you can see that it's not really that damaged by the snails, but I am trying to attract the woody ducks and things like that in to eat the snails and the other insects that might annoy my plants in other parts of the garden. So I thought I'd just sort of talk you through that a bit, but there's not a lot I can show you as far as snails, and I really don't want to touch them, so I'm not going in plants because I don't know if you know, but I'm vision impaired and I'm likely to put my hand on a snail and I don't like them. So this is my sacrifice bed. This is where they've decided they want to live, and I'm just going to leave them to it because I don't like them. I don't like slimy things. I'm pretty okay with most other things, but slimy slugs and snails and nah. They can just stay there and do their thing and bring in the woody ducks and things that like to eat them, or those animals that like to eat them. Even magpies I've seen eating slugs and things like that. Will also eat other pests as well, so I'm not too worried about sacrificing a bed for the snails. They're actually burrowed in the beetroot there, but they don't seem to be bothering it too much. So as long as it goes to seed and we can plant some next year, that's fine, they can stay there. The egg layers are back. They were at my mum and dad's place, which is up the road, for a little while because they come because they think I've got food. Because the other chicken coop got damaged from a branch that fell on it, which was very inconsiderate of that branch. Apparently I can't English today either. So yeah, they're back. We've only got 2 at the moment, but there's more coming in a couple of days. We're just waiting for the flood to recede so we can actually get through to pick up the chickens. So yeah, we'll have about 8, I think, in this coop, and then they get let out every so often, every afternoon, to pick around and have their free range time. And yeah, we tend to find that eating the fresh grasses and things gives them lovely eggs. So there are egg layers. We do intend on getting meat chickens on a chicken tractor very soon, the Sussex we're looking at. So that's exciting to be starting that, and we've got a lovely butcher that we can do deals with to process those chickens. I'm happy to help, but yeah, it's a bit hard to do with just 2 people when you're doing a fair amount of them. So yeah, that's our plan with the chickens, but these ones are just egg layers. Here's our fertiliser maker, or one of them anyway. We've got quite a few foals. We've got 3 foals on the ground at the moment, which I'll probably show you in another video. But yeah, she's just here for training. She's not actually ours, but she came unhandled and she's coming along beautifully. And obviously we use what comes out of her as food for our garden. Coreopsis. There's so much of it around at the moment. It's a really good bee attractor. It's a weed, technically. But we don't mind it because it's pretty and it's just growing all through our fields, and it's a sign that spring is here and it's time to start planting things out, really. It's just nature talking to us. So yeah, it's a beautiful yellow daisy. I think in some places you could plant it that maybe it doesn't grow because it is a daisy. It's not, I wouldn't say it's sort of obnoxious as such. It only comes really in this time of year and then it just dies off and reseeds and comes back next year, so it's not that much of a pain, and it's pretty and it brings all the bees and stuff into the garden. So as long as it's not where you don't want it and then it becomes a weed, then the Coreopsis daisy is alright as far as weeds go. If you look down in here, see if I can get the camera to focus on it without the leaves in the way. We have apples. There's actually quite a few sitting on there. Maybe if I hold that, I might be able to see them, but it's a bit difficult to see with all the leaves in the way. Hang on a minute, I think I'm too zoomed in. Let's just try zooming out a bit. So many leaves. Aren't they pretty? Little apples. The first one that this tree's produced, it is nearly a 3-year-old tree, I think. It might be 4 years old. But it has only been in the ground here for nearly 2 years, I suppose. Just after the bushfires in 2019 we planted this one. So yeah, we've got some apples, so that's pretty exciting. And it'd be interesting to see if they get to maturity, because a lot of the time when you've got the tree starts to produce fruit, the fruit fall off, and you know, the tree needs more time to get its roots established. But like I said, it's about 4 years old, this tree, in its age, so it should be pretty ready to produce some fruit anyway. And it's also got some blossom on it at the same time. Pretty little blossom flowers there. So that's pretty cool. You know, I kept feeding this elderberry nitrogen and thinking it's nitrogen deficient, it's yellow, what's going on? And then I looked up the species and its actually common name is the golden leaf elderberry. So it's supposed to be this colour. It looks quite healthy to me, it's nice and shiny, and I was very confused at why it was doing so poorly as far as its colour, and then yeah, that was a bit of a mistake. But anyway, it's producing lots and lots of berries. I have been using some flowers I should say, which will turn into berries. Lots and lots of flowers, which I have been turning some of the flowers into tinctures because they're really good for the immune system. So yeah, this is a pretty good early producing plant as far as you can use the flowers and the berries, and the flowers come up pretty early in spring, so that's a handy plant to have in a cold temperate type climate that we have, where our winters are very frosty and cold. These will go dormant and then they'll wake back up in the early spring. There's lots of weeds around them too, but you know, that's part of a forest, right? And then underneath is a strawberry plant, and it's protected by these elderberries from the sun. It can still get to light, but it's protected from the really hot sun, because we do get quite warm summers and the strawberries tend not to like to be too hot. So yeah, and then of course we don't want to protect them too much from the frost, because we actually want them to throw out runners and take over this section, because this was a tiny little plant when I put it in last year. So there you go. These strawberry plants are producing. These are alpine strawberries, so they're a lot smaller than your sort of store-bought variety of strawberry, but they are also sweeter and a different kind of texture. They're smoother, I guess, than a store-bought strawberry. And yeah, they're producing like down in here, like they're just everywhere, these flowers on the alpine strawberry. There's a berry there. So yeah, when they ripen up, they're really, really tasty treat, and they're quite early too. We've been eating berries off this for the last few weeks, which is quite early for fruit producing plants. We also had a pretty good start to spring. We didn't have a late frost or anything, so that's kind of given the fruits and things a bit more growing time to start producing. So yeah, I think we'll get quite a few strawberries off this one. And I don't know if they'll make it to being weighed. I think they might make it to our mouth before they make it to the scale, because they tend to do that, you know, they just jump in your mouth. But there you go, the strawberries are producing now. And of course we've got peppermint just all throughout here. It tends to keep the bugs off the strawberries. They don't tend to get upset with each other being there. The strawberries just grow right through the peppermint, and the peppermint doesn't mind. And the peppermint then protects it from the pests that might steal our strawberries. And then we've got some wormwood here, and we use that to worm our animals and ourselves as well. It tastes terrible though, so you know, you might want to put it in like an oxymel or something. It's a bit nicer tasting than just eating it like that. You can eat it like that, but it's not real good. It doesn't taste real nice. It's quite bitter and, I don't know, furry and just, yeah. But anyway, that's producing like a ton of wormwood, which we can harvest and then dry it, dehydrate it for later use. But we tend to use it fresh in the wormers for our animals, for the horses and the chickens and things. But yeah, certainly you can dehydrate it, which we will be doing because I really need to cut it back. It's starting to kind of take over this whole area, which is fine, but yeah, it does need cutting back and to be used. These will start producing quite soon. They're an early producer as well as far as veggies go. They seem to come on before the pumpkins and the cucumbers and all those things, and they produce really heavily, so looking forward to that. And their weights are pretty good too for the competition, so that's always a bonus. We use them to make zucchini noodles, and we can dehydrate those and use them whenever we need pasta or spaghetti, because I'm gluten intolerant. I'm not celiac, which is a condition of the small intestine to do with gluten intolerance or gluten allergy, but I get rashes and things from it, so I tend not to eat it, and it seems to flare up my psoriasis, so I just stay away from it as much as possible. And this is a great sort of wheat alternative in some respects. You can make flour from it, and like I said, you can make the noodles from it, or zoodles as we call them here. And then obviously you can use it as a zucchini, just chop it up in your stir fryers, or you can stuff it with some mince and cheese and tomato sauce, or you could do whatever you like with it really. But yeah, some other ideas for using zucchini is to dehydrate it and crush it into a flour, or to make it into a noodle, and you could dehydrate that too and use that later on. You could freeze dry it as well if you've got access to that as a cooked product, and then you just add your warm water and you've got noodles that you could use for a soup or a spaghetti bolognese or something. So there you go. I think this video is long enough now, so I'll stop yakking. There's another one, and we will see you very soon. I am going to use, I think, one of my cucumber plants. The cucumbers are in the greenhouse at the moment, starting up. They're not actually, I only planted them yesterday, and they won't be long before they're popping their heads out of the soil. So once they're doing that, I will transplant one when it's got its first true leaves, I'll transplant that into a container and we'll do that as our container vegetable. I think we did tomato in a pot last year, so do something different, do a cucumber in a container and see how that goes. So that should be an interesting little experiment, and hopefully I remember to water it, because I'm shocking at remembering to do those kinds of things. Which is why I have a forest garden, because the mulch keeps the water in the ground so you don't have to water them very often. So yeah, that's it for today folks, and hope you enjoy Shedwars 2022, and thanks to Homestead Aquarius for that lovely first pick to join your team. That was a really nice little spiel you did too. And you did get my disease wrong though, it's actually osteopetrosis, not osteoporosis, but that's okay, I'll forgive you, because you know, it happens to everyone, including doctors. Everyone gets it wrong. The difference is that mine is a genetic condition that I have had since birth, which means that my body doesn't expel the calcium from the bones properly. So it basically leads to too much calcium, which people think, too much calcium, how is that even possible? Well, in a normal body it's not really, but in mine it is, and it makes the bones really, really dense, and so they crack on impact like concrete. So I hope that clears that up for you. You can understand a little bit more about the disease, because it is a rare disease and we like to kind of get the word out there and share with other people who may not have ever heard of it, which includes a lot of doctors. Share with people what it is, and yeah, so there you go. It's osteopetrosis, and pet means like petrified, you know, like hard. So osteo is bone and rosis is disease. So you've got osteoporosis, you've got osteoarthritis, those sort of things, bone. And I have osteoarthritis because of the osteopetrosis. But yeah, that's something that it's actually a little bit more common in cows, so do with that what you like. But yeah, when a cow has osteopetrosis, the problem with that cow is the calcium in the milk, because it's staying in the bones, is very, very low. So in the dairy industry, an osteopetrotic cow can be a bit of a problem if you're looking at calcium in milk. But you know, then they process the milk and, well, there's not much calcium left in it anyway. But yeah, anyway, there you go. So thanks for that lovely introduction, Robert from Homestead Aquarius, and I look forward to being on your team. And everyone else, thanks for watching, and I look forward to hopefully sharing some cool stuff with you as things progress through the season. It's only early days here where I am, so yeah, I think we're going to have a pretty good year with all this rain, if we don't flood too bad. I'm up on higher ground where the food forest is, and I did that for a reason, so that when the water washes down to the creek, because we have a running creek here that runs all year round, when the water sort of gathers up too much and the plants can't use it all, it's going to run down the hill back into the creek, so it's rehydrating the landscape on the way down to the creek. That's why it's on higher ground. It's not because I was worried too much about flooding or any of that sort of stuff, because I'm not really, because natural forests, when they flood, they don't get washed away too much. They're sort of resilient, and that's what we're mimicking here with all this natural mulch and all that sort of stuff, and natural ground covers like the mint here and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's why we're on higher ground, and that's why we do it this way. So thanks guys, and see you next vid.